A very good evening to all the academician, students, and scholars around the world. I, Dr. Sheminaz, on behalf of Progressive Literary and Cultural Society, welcome you all on our digital platform. Today, have organized a lecture on a very famous writer of America, Desire and Under the Elms. The title of our lecture is Desire, Revenge and Tragedy in Eugene O'Neill under the Desire Under the Elms. So, when we discuss about American literature, then the name of Eugene O'Neill is very prominent. He's one of the greatest dramatists, greatest writer which America had. And when we there are things which are very unusual in his life, as Eugene O'Neill was born in a hotel room on October 16, 1888. His parents were at that time staying at the Barrett House, a family hotel meant chiefly for theatrical people on Broadway at 43rd Street in New York. It was an appropriate setting for a man who was to be connected with the theater all his life. So he was born not his home, but in a hotel. And this was something which was connected with him throughout his life. Throughout his life, he was homeless because his father was working in a theater company and they have to travel from place to place. His father, James O'Neill, had won a great reputation for his role in play called Monte Cristi. Eugene's father mainly led a traveling life with the theatrical company with which he worked. The result was that Eugene was fed, dressed, and put to sleep in hotel room and in trains. This is one of the reasons that he was being neglected. He felt neglected from his parental love, whether it was father or mother. He spent the first 7 years of his life in being taken from one place to another all over the country. And he suffered from deep loneliness on this journey. So this is something very different. This is not from which very different childhood which other normal children have. Eugene's mother hated this torturing life but had no choice. From the time Eugene was, she was not well, and only medicine and pain relieving drugs made her existence bearable. She was at that time mourning the loss of her second son, Edmund, who had died 3 years before at the age of 1.5. So, in this way, we can say that Eugene O'Neill didn't get the love and care from both his father and mother. He had lived in frustration. Hence, this is the reason that he has lived in frustration and anguish of both mental and physical. For all his delving, he has not solved the mystery of man's eternal struggle with himself and an overwhelming universe. The closest he came to a solution with his beliefs, stated so forcibly in the Iceman Comet, that man must cling to his illusion of Paris. So he had some kind of hostility towards his parents, or this he had reflected in most of his drama. Desire Under the Elm is also one such drama in which he has reflected a hostile attitude towards his parent, especially father. So we have a prominent professor from S.S. Khanna Girls Degree College, a constituent college of University of Allahabad, Prayagraj. Dr. Nirja Sachdev. Dr. Nirja Sachdev is an associate professor and head Department of English, S.S. Khanna Girls Degree College, Allahabad. She is the coordinator of Commerce faculty of S.S. Khanna Girls Degree College. She has been teaching for 40 years and has edited 2 books, Relevance of Education in Life in 2016 and Absolute Swaraj in 2018. She is a co-editor of journal Anveksha. She has organized various national conferences, workshops in her college, and has presented paper in many national international conferences in India and abroad. She has also published papers in many national and international journals. She has received Sahitya Gaurav Award by Citizen Society in 2015, ACTI Award by ACTI Educational Society in 2012, and it is our pleasure that she is one of the active member of our organization, Progressive Literary and Cultural Society. So, ma'am, Dr. Nirja Sachdev, ma'am, you are, I welcome you, and now the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Shaminaz. A very good evening to all of you who are here with me. And the sad part is, of course, that most of my students are not with me, which should be there. I had already told them in my class that I'll be taking up a lecture on Desire Under the Elms, and I'll be informing you. And in the morning, I did post it to them. But actually, as Kanupriya also stated, that most of them are not interested in increasing their knowledge. Anyways, those who are there, it is for the benefit of them only. So, as Dr. Shaminaz has already told a little bit about Eugene O'Neill, who is the writer of this famous play, Desire Under the Elms. Now, just I'll give a very, very brief introduction of Eugene O'Neill before I begin upon the play. Eugene O'Neill, in full, is Eugene Gladstone O'Neill. That is his full name, and he was born on October 16, 1888 in New York, and he died on November 27, 1953 at Boston, Massachusetts, and he is one of the most foremost, you can say, American dramatists and the winner of the Nobel Prize for Literature in 1936. And amongst his masterpieces, I would say one was Long Day's Journey into Night, which was produced posthumously in 1956 and which is at the apex of a long string of great plays which he wrote, including Beyond the Horizon in 1920, Anna Christie 1922, and Strange Interlude 1928, Our Wilderness 1933, and The Iceman Candy 1946. So, as it already told to you, that his life, O'Neill was born into the theatre. It's a stated fact that he was born in a hotel, so he did not even get that feeling, that cajoling and caressing of a home and of the lap of the mother. All the caresses that a child gets at home. He was deprived of all that, and his father, James O'Neill, who was all the time touring from one place to the other. He was almost like a vagabond wanderer and searching for roles in different companies. And his mother, Ella, was also, did not like this fact about her husband, but she had to accompany her husband back and forth across the country, settling down briefly in one place on the other. And both her sons, James Jr. and Eugene, both were born away from home, and that was one of the reasons, you can say, that was the cause of homelessness in the life of O'Neill. And O'Neill's plays were written mainly from an intensely personal point of view, deriving directly from the scarring effects of his family's tragic relationship. His mother and father, who loved and tormented each other. I mean, they were not also a happy couple. So naturally, when the parents lead a destructive life, that has a major drawback upon the development of the children. And his older brother, who loved and corrupted him and died of alcoholism. So naturally, he was also a total alcoholic. And he also did not leave a very good impression upon O'Neill. And O'Neill himself, he was caught and torn between love, for, and rage in all the three, the conjugal relations, the marriage relationship that he had in his life. So, a little bit about the tragic life of O'Neill, which made him suffer. But you can say each writer, whenever he is leading such a tragic life, the personal tragic life, so whenever they write something, these literary forms of writing, whether it is a novel, whether it is a drama, whether it is prose or poetry, whatever it is, it tends to bring out the emotions which are lying dormant. So O'Neill also, he wrote mainly from the personal point of view. He was very touchy, and whatever he felt in life, some way or the other was depicted in his writings also. And Desire Under the Elms is a play which was written in 1924. And that play, Mountains Becomes Electra, Desire Under the Elms, signifies an attempt by O'Neill to adopt plot elements and themes of Greek tragedy. A Greek tragedy had a great influence, and the Greek literature had a great influence upon O'Neill, and especially when he was writing about rural New England. He used that rural New England setting, and Desire Under the Elms. I'm sure you must have found that the setting is not a urban setting, but it is the rural New England setting, and that is why the language that O'Neill has used in Desire Under the Elms is a native language, and the dialogue delivery of the characters is also in a native language. So when you are reading the play, there is a difference in the spellings, but of course in pronunciation you have to pronounce it according to the British literature. And this particular play, it was inspired by the myth of Phaedra, Hippolytus and Theseus. And a film version of this play was also produced in 1958 and there was that operatic setting by Edward Thomas. But Desire Under the Elms, as I told you, was inspired by the Greek tragedy, and its plot elements and characters are from Euripides' play Hippolytus. Now this particular play, the Greek play Hippolytus, in this particular play, the story that runs is a little bit similar, or rather the story of Desire Under the Elms is a little bit similar on a similar pattern of this Greek play Hippolytus. What happens in Hippolytus is that Phaedra, Theseus's wife, she attempts to seduce his son, chaste Hippolytus. Now Hippolytus is a representation, or rather Aben is a representation of Hippolytus, because he is also supposed to be the chaste person. And after this fails and Hippolytus threatens to reveal his unfaithfulness, Phaedra commits suicide. Theseus finds a letter that Phaedra carried accusing Hippolytus of raping her. Enraged, Theseus, using one of the three wishes that his father Poseidon promised him, curses his son with banishment or death. After Hippolytus is fatally wounded by an encounter with a bull, Artemis arrives to reveal the truth to Theseus, and Hippolytus dies after absolving his father. So, this was the story of Hippolytus in the Greek tragedy, but something or the other, was in Desire Under the Elms. The characters in the Desire Under the Elms were influenced by this Greek tragedy, because Aben more or less represents Hippolytus, and the characters Aben, Abi and Abron, they are roughly corresponding with Hippolytus, Phaedra and Theseus respectively. Both these plays, they were driven by a love triangle between a father, a son and a stepmother. And the tragedy arises mainly from misguided actions made by the stepmother. And as you all know, Abby was a stepmother in Desire Under the Elms. In Phaedra's case, it is her lust for her husband's son, like Abby's lust for Aben, and the falseness of her letter. And here, of course, the falseness is not of the letter, but the falseness of her wishes that were conveyed to Cabot. O'Neill takes this one step further in Desire Under the Elms and makes Abby misguided action the beginning and the murder of a child that leads to tragedy in the end. And as far as the significance, you can, if you go to the title of the play, that is Desire Under the very word desire, desire is something which will include all the three aspects. That is the revenge, the lust, the tragedy. Everything that is there in that particular desire. Because when you are provoked with a desire, if you have antagonistic feelings towards anybody, and if you are having ill relations with somebody, naturally the first thing is the feeling of hatred, and that feeling of hatred, results in the revenge. The first outcome, the impulsive outcome in an individual is to take revenge. He becomes hostile and he plans, all the scrupulous ways in which he or she can take revenge. And that is there in the heart of Aben also, and in the mind of Abby also. And of course Cabot, who is supposed to be the sole father of the three sons, Peter, Simon and Aben. Peter and Simon are the two sons which Cabot has from the first mother. Aben is from the second mother, And now he marries for the third time with Abby. The Abby is the third wife of Cabot. And Cabot is not a young fellow. He is 75 or 76 years old, an old man. And he takes to the desire of getting married again for the third time in order to get away with his lonesomeness. That is what he calls that, God. And all the time, he goes back to religion, and he takes the help of this providence in seeking his help, looking up to the sky all the time. All the three sons, as well as Cabot, you'll find they look up to the sky, and then seeing the colors of the sky at the time of sunrise, at the time of sunset, and they say that, well, see, the color is so pretty, the yellow color, the orange color, the red color. I mean, all the time they are looking up at the sky and calling it pretty, and at the same time, as if there is a call from that religion, and telling him that, well, God is wishing me to do this. It is a call from God. God is, and what Cabot all the time says, God is not easy. God is difficult. So whatever he has, and the desire that is there in the heart of each of those three characters, in fact, four characters, the major characters, that is the three sons and the father, the desire is mainly to achieve success, fame, and power in life. And Cabot, who is supposed to be the father figure, naturally he feels that he is the sole doer of the work. And you can, O'Neill takes, one step further in this particular play, that is far from being this play from being a little bit unnatural or out of the ordinary. Desire, becomes a very important part, what it means to be human. It is as much a part of the natural world as any elm tree. The significance of the two elm trees that are bordering on the house, and with their branches, intermingling and brooding like the arms of a woman, resting on the sagging breast of a woman. That is the significance of the two elm trees. So the desire that is there in the heart of each of these characters is also signified almost like the presence of these two elm trees. And even, he experiences recognition, acknowledges his shared responsibility for the murder of their child later on in life, and thus later on, he becomes a tragic hero. And tragic hero, that is the sufferer, as if he is supposed to be the achiever in life, and he's trying to be the achiever right from the very beginning, but he fails to do so. From the two sons, Simon and Peter, as the story, just let me tell you in short, is that the three sons, they are living and the father is not there, the Cabot is not there in the scene. And from these three sons, we learn that the father has gone out he just left with a message that I'll be back, and 2 months have lapsed, but he has not come back. So the three sons are in a state of puzzlement, and they are just maneuvering and manipulating as to where the father could have gone. And probably because of his age, the three sons cannot even dream of the fact that the father is gone to get married again, isn't it? So, but all three of them are dissatisfied, because all three of them are not able to fulfill their desire. First of all, Simon is the eldest of the three. He's 39 years old. Peter is 37 years old. And Eben is around 25 years old. So he's young. All of them have reached that stage when they should settle down with a family. But they do not have a family. And both Simon and Peter are working on the farm which Cabot has built up. And he feels that he is the sole builder of that farm, because he says, I picked up stone by stone and picked up the pebble by pebble and built that particular farm. That is, it was supposed to be a barren land. It was not a fertile land. And people, left that land thinking that they should go to California, they should go towards the west in order to seek fortune. Whereas Cabot, he said, I got a call from God, I got a voice from God, telling me to stay back and to fend for this farm and to plow this farm and make it fertile. So I did it, and I have made the ground fertile, and I have maneuvered and planted the crops, and I have made it grow, and I have made the cattle grow out here. So I am the owner of the farm, and the farm belongs to me. And whereas, who are the workers in the farm? Not only Cabot, but Simon and Peter. And Eben is, because of the death of the first mother and the second mother also, when Eben was 15 years old, his mother also died. So there was no lady in the house to look after the house. So Eben used to look after the food, and he was doing the housekeeping. Field, that if we are working on the field, naturally we should have a share in the farm. We should get our share. But the father refuses to give them the share. And if you see the language that the two sons, or rather the three of them use for their father is, they never call him father. They never call him Paul. They always refer to him as old miser, old mule, old horse, the hypocrite, the old shunk. So both, all three of them, have never got that feeling of that human feeling of love and affection and brotherhood, which they should get either with the father or with each other. And in fact, when the news comes to them, when they learn that the father has gone and got married a third time, Simon and Peter are so rebellious. In fact, Eben also, all three of them are so rebellious that both Simon and Peter finally decide that, well, let us move away. Let us leave this farm and let us go to California, where there is gold in the west, there is gold in California, and let us go and seek our fortune in California while we are wasting our time here, because if he has gone and got married, naturally, legally, the farm will belong to that lady or to that particular woman to whom he has married, because naturally the father is an old man, he may die any time. And after his death, legally the rights of the farm will go to the wife. So they again will be deprived of the share on the farm, and they want to go to California. And when they decide to go to California, naturally it is not an easy task in those days to go to California, because there was no aeroplane system and there was no transport system which could carry them. So they could only sail to California. And Eben takes the chance. Now he becomes the clever person, and he tells Simon and Peter, well, if you sign a paper in which you give the share of your property to me in my name, I will give you the fare, that is the money, to make you sail to California. So he knows they used to dig in the ground and cover it up with the floorboard and had an earthen vessel which they used to store the money. So this is what Cabot had done. But the mother had shown this to Eben, and Eben knew where the money was hiding. And he takes the money out of the floorboard and from the earthen vessel, and he promises to give them an equal share of 300 pounds to both of them if they are willing to sign their share of property to Eben. And of course, the two sons, Simon and Peter, agree to this deal, and they sign the papers, and they say, well, if our father has gone and married, let us sail to California. But they do not leave the place till they see the wife. They want to see the wife. They don't say their mother. None of the three sons except Abby as their mother. And from the very moment when they see her, they are hostile towards her. They have a very, they harbor ill feelings against her. Even is very angry to see Abby. So both of them, when Abby, confronts Simon and Peter, of course, leave as Abby enters the house. And Eben, of course, has to live there. And even Cabot, Cabot gets very annoyed when he finds that Simon and Peter are dead, because he has lost two working hands. And now he is very hostile towards Eben also, who is not ready to accept Abby as a stepmother. But Abby, as soon as she meets Eben again, that desire. You know, that she's a young woman, buxom woman of 35 years old and very much younger to Cabot, and she has married with a desire for property, home, and security, for having a place of security in life, isn't it? That is why she has absolutely no love for Cabot, and she knows he's an old man. He may live for 5 to 10 years, and then he will die, and she will become the sole possessor of the whole farm and of the home also. So, with that particular intention of possessiveness, she enters the house. And when she enters the house, she is at loggerheads with Eben, because when she confronts Eben, of course she is attracted by the personality of the young Eben, because she herself is young, even though she is a little older to Eben. But at the same time, that desire, that desire, that womanly desire of sexual love is set up in her, and she wants to have a conjugal relationship with Eben. But when she confronts him, she tells him, see, this is my home, my farm, and my kitchen. And when she uses, she describes the whole house as with the word mine. And that mine is that feeling of possessiveness, something which belongs to her. Already she feels it is mine. And when she says this in front of Cabot, Cabot says, correct, sir, not mine, but ours. It's our home, our farm. You can't call it my farm, my home, my room, my kitchen. It is our home, our farm, our kitchen, our parlor. So, he is correcting her because he does not. And Cabot is, of course, having patriarchal views of that man only can be the possessor of the property, man can be the owner of the house also, and the property and the farm and the home should be passed on to a son. That is, as is the custom in the patriarchal society, that everything, the son is the inheritor of all the property of the father. So the woman does not have a say in anything, and that is what, and Eben has a grudge against the father simply because of this feeling that he did not do good to his mother. He slaved her mother, and that is why his mother died. And he also feels that the farm belonged to my mother, and he took it by force, and that is why it grieved my mother into her death. So he holds Cabot totally responsible for the death of his mother, and he still feels the presence of mother in the home. And he likes to stay at home simply because in the parlor he gets a feeling as if the mother is around him, and he cannot do away with that feeling. And this possessiveness of the mother that is there in the mind and heart of Eben is what Abby catches on and encashes it. She wants to win Eben through the presence of that mother, because she develops a feeling of love in Eben by trying to take the place of the mother of Eben. And that is how she tries to attract him. But in front of Cabot, all the time she is, she manipulates and says, well, see, that when Cabot finds Eben and Abby having a quarrel with each other, she tries to cover up and says that, see, Eben was trying to abuse me, and Eben was trying to seduce me, rather. And when Cabot finds the statement from Abby, he gets infuriated and says, well, I will slap him and I'll kick him out of the house if he dares to do such a thing to you. And then Abby gets very scared because she also knows that Cabot can do anything in his desire. Again, his desire to be the sole possessor of the home and to be the sole possessor of Abby. Even though Abby does not show any love to Cabot, yet he wants to show that Abby belongs to him and Abby has love for him. But Abby, of course, tries to put this ill feeling in the mind of Cabot against Eben. So see, again, Cabot is having a feeling of revenge against Eben, and he wants to chuck him out of the house, and he wants to remove him from the property if Eben tries to show his hold over the property, or hold, or tries to seduce Abby. And Eben wants to take revenge over Cabot because he feels that Cabot is responsible for the death of his mother, and at the same time, Cabot is not giving a share to Eben in his farm, and at the same time, this Eben does not have a share in the home also. So he is all the time wanting to take revenge against Cabot, and Abby wants to take revenge against Cabot because she feels that through him I have entered the house and I must have a relationship with Eben, and finally she really truly falls in love with Eben and wants to marry him, and both of them plan to be together later on by fooling Cabot. And when Abby comes to know that Cabot is ready to hand over the property to the son, because the son, as I told you, the patriarchal values are very dominant in those days. And then he says that, when Abby says, well, I am there, I will be the holder of the property and I will be the carrier, the inheritor. Then he says, well, you are not my blood. You are a woman and the property will go to my blood. So then Abby realizes that if he has a feeling that the property is going to go to his blood, then she, cleverly manipulates. And here she is, being a woman, she is also trying to take revenge from Cabot by saying, all right, if I give you a son, then will you, if you are strong enough to build up a farm, and even at your age, you say, like Cabot used to say, I am equal to 10 of Abel's or 10 of Simon and Peter. That is, I have much, much more strength in me than any of my sons. So she says, and then she encashes upon the strength of Cabot, and she says, well, if you are capable, even at your age, then you are also capable of begetting a son from me. And if I give you a son, well, will he not become the inheritor of the property? And of course, Cabot gets to fool. He does not realize the revenge that she is planning by trying to tell him that she will beget a son. The son, of course, is not going to be by Cabot, but it is by Eben. And this is how and then she says that, well, if I give you the son, promise me if you will give me what I desire. Now see, the desire invokes. And then Cabot is so, in his humbleness and his modesty, or in his foolishness, he believes in her and says, well, if you give me a son, then I'll promise to give you the farm. And I promise to give you the everything, whatever you say. So this is how, Abby, encashes Cabot. Her own desire she fulfills by being the possessor of the farm and the home, and at the same time also being the possessor of Eben, by befooling, by taking revenge on Cabot and misguiding and misleading. And what happens that in future, with the process of time, Eben, of course, also gets caught in with the love of Abby, and both of them are young. They are having feelings for each other. It is the desire which, makes them come together. And finally, Abby begets a son. And when she begets a son, by that time, Abby is truly in love with Eben. It is not a false love now. It is the real love of Abby for Eben, and she has that possessiveness for him. And she doesn't want to leave Eben. And Cabot is befooled into thinking that the son is begot by him, even though all the community people, he gives a party to the whole community, and the party and the community people, they are all befooled, and they are not befooled. In fact, they are all convinced that the son is not by Cabot at all. He could not get a son at his age. This is a son by Eben, but they keep whispering, they keep nudging each other, and they keep winking and smiling at each other. But Cabot is living in his make-believe world that the son belongs to me. And Abby, of course, wants the presence of Eben, but in front of the public she cannot even call her son the son of Eben and her own self. That means she cannot name the father of that son as Eben. And Cabot, when he gets overdrunk in that party, and he has a tussle with Eben, and finally the fact is revealed to him that the son that he begot is not a son by him, but by Eben, and then he gets very wild. And meanwhile, when he confronts Eben, he tries to fight with Eben by telling him that, see, Abby, by putting in the mind of Eben that Abby has befooled Eben in getting a son, because Abby wanted to get the property, Abby wanted to get the home, and therefore she has befooled Eben in making love to him and in getting a son by him in order to fulfill her desire. Now, Eben, like a foolish person, believes Cabot that, and he thinks that Abby has befooled him. So, another turnover takes place, that now Eben wants to take revenge on Abby, because he, being a man, cannot bear the brunt that a woman can befool him. So here the revenge of Eben against Abby. And he gets infuriated, and when Abby realizes that it is for the sake of the son, for the presence of that son, that our relationship is being disintegrated, so it is best that I must do away with the child. And she tells Eben that if it's for the sake of him that I have lost your love, well, I will do away with it. I will kill him. And she really goes and smothers the child and kills him. And of course, in his anger, human nature is like that. Human nature impulsively acts and reacts without reasoning. And Eben is when he feels infuriated, because see, he did not have a feeling of love for the father. So whenever they meet, they are all the time hostile. And all the time, at loggerheads with each other, and trying to outdo each other, trying to abuse each other, trying to take revenge on each other for whatever the wrong they feel have been done to each other. Otherwise, they never thought about the good feelings of the human relationships, of the humility and the brotherhood and the love that is there in their relationship. And here also, Abby, who has led a Abby's life was also not a very successful life. She also became an orphan in early times. And then when she grew, she had to work in other people's house. And when she got married, she married a drunkard, and she got a son. The husband also died early because of his alcoholism, and the son also expired. So again, she was left all alone to fend for herself, and again she has to work in the other people's houses in order to earn money. So she was always a worker. She never had a home of her own. And because of that, if you enter into the life of Abby, also you will find that she was also a lone summer. She was also an orphan. She also did not have a happy married life. And she was also deprived of a son and a husband early in life. And therefore, she was having a desire of possessiveness, of having a home and having a farm, having a property. And here when she enters, when she marries Cabot, and she marries Cabot only for the sake of getting these things in life, because she realizes he's an old man, he has a farm, and later on I'll be the possessor of the farm. He has a home, and later on I'll be the possessor of the home. And naturally, fortunately, when she meets Eben, she falls in love with him, and then she also feels that, well, I will have a caretaker husband, and I think he agrees to marry her. She will have a husband also. So, with this intention, she does this. But later on, when she kills the son, naturally, she goes and tells Eben that, see, I have proved to you. I have taken revenge. And now this is a sort of a revenge by killing the child in order to prove her love for Eben. And in his impulsiveness, of course, he had blamed Abby, and he said, well, I'm going to call the sheriff, and the sheriff will catch you, and he will put you behind the bars, and you will be hanged to death. And when he goes to call the sheriff, he's waiting for the sheriff to get ready and come. And by the time while he's waiting, he realizes the fact that why did Abby do this? And then he gets the realization, well, Abby did this only to prove her love for me. And see, I have been cruel and I have been the cause of the murder of the son. She being a mother, can never do such a thing. She can never kill a son for the sake of getting the property, or for the sake of getting me. So, for the sake of getting the home. She did it for the sake of getting me. And then he rushes back home and says, well, I am the equal sharer of the deed and I must partake in the punishment that has been meted out to you. And therefore, let the sheriff come and let both of us go to the jail. And when Cabot comes back home and when he realizes this and when he finds this out that the son is killed, he also gets very infuriated and feels that, well, I'm going to burn the farm, I'm going to leave the farm, I'm not going to leave it to anybody, and I'll set the cattle free, because the cattle, and all the time, what is there? Even though, Cabot, if you take these characters, there's tragedy in the life of all the three of them. Because Aben is also leads a tragic life. He doesn't get the love of the mother and he doesn't get the love of the father. And then he becomes a tragic hero because he is a sufferer by, vacillating between Abby and Cabot. And then also he loses his son, the one real thing that he possessed in life. He is a loser of that also. He loses his son also. And he loses the love of Abby to a certain extent. And then finally, of course, when he gives in, he does get her love back. And both of them, feel happy to confess and profess their love for each other in the end. But that is also there after undergoing that suffering. And Cabot, of course, is a tragic hero in the sense that he was the builder of the farm. He, did everything in his life. Right from the beginning, he toiled and worked hard and built stones upon stones in order to make this farm a fertile farm. And he thought that, well, my sons are going to carry this work, what I have begun. And after marrying Abby, he felt that when I'll have a son, that son is going to be the inheritor of the farm. But again, here also, when he finds that he's left all alone, and he feels that, well, and then he realizes that I am growing old and I have reached that ripe age, and my branches are also getting ripe and are ready to fall down. But yet he does not have the desire to leave the farm to anybody. He wants to burn the farm, and he says, and in fact, he gets again that desire to leave the farm and go to California and seek wealth out there. But while he is stranded with the notion of going to California, suddenly he again gets, because of his belief and faith in God, he still gets a call from the God prompting him to stay back and hold on to the farm and work on the farm, which again stops him from going away. But still he leads a life of lonesomeness, and he leads a life of a tragic hero. So if we consider, from the point of view of Cabot, we will find, of course, he is also a tragic hero. And why? Every time in trying to be at loggerheads with his son, he is also shown the attitude of taking revenge upon his son. And the sons, all the time, instead of understanding the father, and instead of trying to build relationship with each other, they have all the time also trying to seek revenge upon him. And Abby, of course, the very fact of getting married is like taking revenge upon Cabot by getting hold of the farm and of the home with this prospect of getting married to him. So this is what happens in the whole play, and this is how the tragedy is there. And if you talk about Cabot, the patriarch of the Cabot family, who worked the farm and made it successful. Achieving his aims in life, and he has poor eyesight, but he does not notice, and because of his poor eyesight also, and not able to notice what is happening around his. His mind is going a bit, and out of, it's losing sight of things, and all the time he's craving for the warmth of the balm rather than that. Whenever my home rather than this house which is built of stones. And he complains all the time of being lonesome, and that is a fact which no one really knows. And Aben, on the other hand, is a angry, grim young man. He desires nothing else than the farm that his beloved Ma had worked so hard and died upon. That is how what he feels. And he pays off his half brothers Simon and Peter to go to California after the return of the Cabot with a new wife, Abby. And they fall in love with each other. They have a son. But when he comes to think that she has tricked him and wants the land for her own self, he again gets that feeling of revenge against her, which makes her commit the act of killing the son. And later on, Aben cannot deny his passion, his desire for her anymore, and proclaims that he will go to prison with her for the sake of their love. And Abby, on the other hand, as you have seen, is a sensual and a very passionate woman, 35. She marries Cabot only for the sake of getting the property and getting the home. And fortunately or unfortunately, you can say, she falls in love with Aben, and how the story moves on. And Simon and Peter, of course, are there in the beginning, but they move out to California in order to seek wealth. And the figure of the mother is like a ghost figure, which is, her presence is felt as long as Abby does not take control of him. So, family is a very, very incredible, important component in the whole play. But family here is not the uplifting, supporting, loving, or a healthy family. Family here is shown as corrupt, incestuous, dark, and tangled. And in fact, it is shown as a burden, a curse, and a heavy stone that pulls one down below the surface of waves. And in fact, it is mostly the inescapable Simon and Peter who manage to get out of this family, but Aben is stuck at the farmhouse with his father, with his paw, and the spirit of his mother. He's forever trying to distance himself from his father, but finds this very difficult. In fact, he eventually embraces the vengeful passion of his mother, but throughout this struggle, he can barely articulate his own personality, his own self. So family in this play is associated with the land as well, and Aben, of course, will free himself from his family and from the land with his likely death after the close of the play. That is when probably they will be punished for their deed. And another revenge, of course, is very much prominent, as I've told you right from the beginning. It is there with Abby, because Abby is obsessed with the idea of revenge. The former three against the three sons against Cabot, and later against the child she comes between, the child that has come between herself and the love of Aben. And though Cabot is supposed to be the primary focus of the characters, he forced them to toil the land until they could find no meaning in it anymore and worked their mothers to death. So that is also a form of a revenge. When being a father, you should have been more homely with the children rather than making them forced to work on the field and making their mothers go to death rather than giving them a share in the property. He then comes back to Abby, to his young wife, who will finally inherit the farm, which is an incredible slap in the face of all the three sons who gave their lives and their mothers to the farm. So the marriage of Cabot with Abby is a sort of a slap upon the face of the three sons, and the revenge is all-consuming, epic in a biblical and a Hellenistic fashion, and it causes the characters to lose their self-awareness and perspicacity, leading one to murder an innocent child. And thus O'Neill's views on revenge are complicated in this play, but they are very much justified because it can easily become a obsession. And sex and desire also play a very important role in this particular play. Sex and desire is a fuel between Abby and Eben, but they are not necessarily depicted as immoral impulses. They are purer than the crass greed and materialism that define Cabot and his other sons' lives. So it is only the negotiation of these impulses, that requires effort. Sex is what brings these unhappy people meaning in their lives and allows them to subvert their misleading. And therefore, you can say, once Eben and Abby fully embrace themselves as sexual beings and remove obstacles in their way, they understand the ecstasies of the spiritual love in the end. So, loneliness, of course, is also one of the important aspects of the play, which I have already told you, that how all of them were living together, but all of them were lonely. And it is a well-known aspect of almost all of O'Neill's play that his characters suffer from profound loneliness. And probably this loneliness, which is depicted in this particular play and in other places, is taken from his own life, as we've already talked about. O'Neill, being born in a hotel and being transferred from place to place and leading a lonely life and not having a home as such. And the characters of the desire are no exception. And Cabot speaks openly in this play of how lonely he is and how no one understands him. He only has his land, his cattle, and finds more comfort with his cows and his sheep than human beings. And Eben is also suffering from loneliness, suffering on the farm with brothers who do not seem to understand him, a dead mother, and a returning father whom he hates. And Simon, of course, speaks of missing his lover, Jem, who is no longer with him. And Abby is profoundly lonely as well and cannot fathom losing Eben, the one person to offer her real love. And finally, we can only guess at the intense loneliness of Cabot's first wives toiling away on the land, and which is not theirs actually, and those wives dying in obscurity. So human beings are fated to be lonely. O'Neill suggests this is what religion, modernity, and selfishness brings about. So I hope I have been able to clear my point of view, and in a way, in this play, one more important thing, what I found between the love of Eben and Abby is that relationship of Oedipus complex. Freudian's Oedipus complex can be seen in this mother-lover relationship of Eben and Abby. So, well, of course, I will not talk about that now, because that's a different aspect. And if you have any questions to put to me, you are most welcome. But I hope I've been able to put my point.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your insightful and erudite lecture. Now the session is open for a discussion. If students, you have any query, any question, you may ask, ma'am. Please don't feel hesitant, don't feel shy. Whatever queries you have, whatever question you have, you can ask. Shivanshi, Kaveri. I hope you people must be hearing this.
Yes, ma'am.
Shivanshi, have
Ma'am
you?
explains very well.
The voice
Clear
is not
all my
audible.
doubt.
Beta, open your video also. Open your video and ask. If you want to give, anybody wants to give any comment, you can say. Shivanshi, open your video.
Very vividly and very clearly explained, and I think each and every student must have understood. Very, very clearly and in a very simple way, you have explained the entire play.
Lucid style, very lucid style.
Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
Shivanshi, yes, you may proceed with your question or queries.
No, ma'am, it is cleared.
The
Ma'am, I
voice
want
is
to say
very
something.
And
low.
Shivanshi,
Ma'am,
you
I'm
should
not able
open
to
your
hear you
video,
all.
beta, when you are speaking on.
Yes, ma'am. It is clear.
Okay. Kaveri?
Yes, ma'am. It is clear.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Anything you want to ask? Sadia?
Ma'am, I want
No,
to say
ma'am.
something.
Yes, Sadia?
Yes, ma'am.
Open
Ma'am,
your
I
video.
want to thank you and Nija ma'am especially because you have organized this webinar and we have revised our text, this desire under the elms. And ma'am has, lecture has always been special by Nija ma'am, always motivating, always full with information and knowledge, whatever we can get. So thank you so much, ma'am, for this. And we have revised our text actually. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, children. Don't leave after this live telecast end. I have to give some announcement. I don't, ma'am, these students, I think they are in a hurry, or they are, think they might have understood each and every line, which because you have explained in such a lucid style. In the end, I would say thank you so much for me. Thank you to from my side also, because my knowledge is also revised. Means no matter you read so much, or but whenever you discuss something with some senior or some scholar, something or the other you get. And the thing is that what I feel that English literature is always in depth to Greek literature, because whether it is and even American literature also, they both British literature and American literature, they are in depth to Greek literature, because they take reference, they take lots of lots of reference from Greek literature in their drama, novels, poetry. What do you say, Dr. Kanupriya? Dr. Kanupriya?
Yes, very true, Shabina. Yes, yes.
And the thing is
Yes,
that
very true.
the thing is that America being superpower and Britishers, because they have expanded their territories in almost all the countries of Asia and Africa, so their literature is more popular. But the thing is that I feel that Greek literature is the base of both American literature and English literature. And now Greek writer in Greek are struggling. Now Greek literature is struggling to regain their glorious past, which they have lost. So that is a matter of discussion. In the end, I would like to thank Dr.
Yeah,
Nirja.
what I feel is like now most of the countries, I mean, most of the countries of the world are trying to imbibe and take concepts from Sanskrit. This is what is happening nowadays.
Okay, Kanu, can you on your video? Okay, yes. So
This is what I am feeling. Yeah.
now lots of things are being translated. Now all the native literature of the world are being translated, and this translation is also helping a lot, because literature is reaching to the masses. Each and every literature is reaching globally and masses. Earlier it was just English literature, but now native literature of many countries are also becoming popular worldwide. So in the end, I would like to say thank you so much, Nirja ma'am. It is always pleasure listening you, and you are not only a senior, but you are like a teacher for us, because we are much younger, and there's always scope for us to learn from you. And it is our privilege that you are also one of the active member of Progressive Literary and Cultural Society, and we are working on various things together, and this is our privilege. This is something, a blessing for us. And thank you, student, and please try to join all this lecture, because when you see, if you want to be a good speaker, if you want to speak, then you have to listen also. If you will listen first, then only you will be able to speak. Otherwise, whatever will you will speak, it will be contentless. So, speaking a senior professor like Nirja Sachdev ma'am means a lot. So, don't lose this kind of opportunity, and you should always try to be involved in such kind of academic activities. Mushine Arda ma'am is also there with us. Mushine ma'am, have you joined us just now, or you have heard the lecture?
Uh, no, I unfortunately I missed the beginning because I was working on some other project with somebody from another country, so I missed. But I love Ninja friend, and she is incredibly a learned person. And it is always a pleasure to listen to her. Really, congratulations. And I'm sorry that I missed the beginning. Thank you. But I will listen to it from Facebook connection again.
Yes, ma'am,
from
I'll
the
send you the link. And dear student, Mushine Arda ma'am is from Turkey, and she has taught in America for more than 20 years. I think, Mushine ma'am, how long you have taught in America? Ma'am, Mushine ma'am, you are muted.
I'm sorry.
Huh.
More than 12 years.
Yes, she has taught in
More than 12
American
years.
colleges for more than 12 years, and she is a native of Turkey. So there are many people from different countries who always join, who are a member of Progressive Literary and Cultural Society, and who also join. But today the thing is that there is more than 3 hour difference between Europe and India, and there is a 2.5 hour difference between India, Middle East, and Turkey, and more than 3 or 3.5 hour difference between India and Europe. So, because of that, many people have, many scholars and poets have not joined, but they mostly join. So, thank you once again, Nirja ma'am. Thanks to all the students. Amelia, there is a friend from Cuba, Amelia. Kayol Tranamil, Amelia, hola, she is Spanish. She doesn't know English, but she always join. Hola, Amelia. Hola. Muchas
Good
gracias.
morning.
Good morning. Muchas
morning.
gracias. Muchas gracias. So, dear student,
Thank you.
she is ambassador of her country. Amelia, Cuba.
She is a very, she is a good musician also.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
a singer.
Amelia, instrument?
Instrument?
Yeah, she had played the instrument in that program.
So
Instrument.
Women crossing the boundaries.
she has, but today that we are having a communication gap now, because we don't know Spanish. I know only 4 or 5 words, and if we would have if we would have Manju or Lucila, then we would have communicated with her. Dear student, she is Amelia is a cultural ambassador of her country, and she is also a member of Amelia, you can.
Instrument?
Yes.
Okay.
Manju has
Manju
joined.
has just joined.
Manju, we were missing you because
Manju, we really needed you.
Manju, traductor.
Hola, Amelia, ¿cómo está?
we were having communication difference. So now, dear student, our friend from India but residing in Spain, Manju has joined us, and she knows Spanish. Manju, you have to communicate with us. And I'm sorry, Amelia is from Chile, not Cuba. Amelia, you can Manju, tell her to play the instrument.
Ya, sí. Sí, Amelia, ¿puede tocar su instrumento, por favor?
Ya, hola Manju, ¿cómo estás?
Estoy bien, perfecto. Estoy disfrutando.
Felicitaciones por tu nuevo...
Gracias, igualmente, Amelia, igualmente.
Lo que le quería decir a la doctora Samená,
Yo publiqué le envié una foto donde salí en un diario acá en la Araucanía de Chile, porque en este momento
Perfecto.
estamos
Vale.
muy, es que he tenido muchas entrevistas y también cociné tres menús mapuche que va a salir en un programa de televisión de nuevo.
Vale.
Y me gustaría
Pienso que he visto, Amelia, pienso que he visto lo que ha publicado, pero yo voy a decir a doctora Shaminas después de que tú vas a tocar tu instrumento, ¿vale?
y que con gusto le estoy representando a ustedes, de ustedes desde allá de la India y yo estoy acá en Chile. Y de hecho también hablé de ustedes.
Claro que sí, Amelia, voy a decir lo mismo.
Todos-
Puedes tocar por favor ahora. Sí, claro.
Abulan kiye choy dumu wachantu tumachir kame. Yo, yo, me amulia itani dumu. Me amulia itani
Muchas gracias.
Qué
Gracias.
bien, Amelia,
Ah.
muchas gracias.
Very good, very good.
Gracias, Amelia. Muchas
Very
gracias.
good.
Manju, your video is off. Can you on your video? Nirja ma'am and Kanupriya, Manju is just now in. Just now, Manju is Spain.
It is on.
Manju is in Spain doing a.
My video is on.
No, Manju's videos. So let me end the video, then we can talk. Thank you, Amelia. Thank you, Manju. Thank you, Kanupriya, and thank you all the students. We will be doing more and more lecture in after the Diwali. Hope you all will join us. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to all the viewers from India and abroad who always join us to